when you're chipping around the green, we know that it is crucial that we get a good contact on the golf ball. So I'm now going to make some chipping motions with the good old broom. I think we can all agree chunking chips is arguably the most frustrating of shots. We've just careered one down the middle of the fairway, smashed it up by the green. We've just missed the green by half a yard or so. And then all of a sudden we hit ourselves a chunky chip. Fat, no contact, and before you know it, you've left the golf ball in front of us. Now, if only golf was as easy chipping off of a mat where I can fat it and the ball runs out to the fairway. Well, of course, when you're chipping around the green, we know that it is crucial that we get a good contact on the golf ball. Over the years, we've heard many ideas of how we want to make good contact with the golf ball. And quite frankly, I think you're probably fed up with them all not working. The first one has been the golf ball needs to be moved back in your stance so that you can get a nice contact. The second one that we've heard a proliferation of is now using the bounce of the golf club. And this arguably has probably created more problems than it's solved. The using of the bounce where we're trying to get that club head and handle all lined up so that when you strike the golf ball, you have a much less angle of attack. The shot I just hit was somewhere in the region of 12 degrees down, and that one is now 3 degrees down. I can speak candidly that one of the reasons why I gave up playing was that I got the yips with my pitching. My pitching was in a really bad place. I sought the advice of many good coaches, people that you would have heard of, and nobody could fix it. Go and check out that video up there. I do a little rundown of my time and career in this game, and I was able to overcome my chipping woes and my pitching woes by working on a system called Heart Math, which was very much about how I wanted to feel about chipping and pitching before I actually took the golf club away. And now I chip and pitch as good as anyone in the world, quite frankly. That's a big claim, but I am pretty confident that I can hit a chip shot and pitch shot with some practice as good as anyone. Now, part of that was making sure that I could feel comfortable in my motion. Comfortable in that my grip pressure, when I pull on the golf club, my leg action all started to move in a nice manner when I hit my chip shot. So I would absolutely say that this is, if you've battled with your chipping or your pitching, this is part physiology and part mechanical. But I think, without question, a lot of this comes back to mechanics first and physiology second. When we're chipping, it's really important to understand that because we've got a short gap between start point, end point in your backswing, end point in your through swing, because that handle is moving a very short distance in relation to the arc the head is moving in, because if you can appreciate that I move the handle back to here, but yet the golf club continues on back, and a lot of you will have tried and gone down the route of no angle of attack or no wrist set, which is equally as garbage as all of the others. What you need to understand is that actually you need to manage the swing moment of the golf club. Because when the golf club sets, that momentum of the club head in backswing to downswing has to be managed by the speed in the handle. So in transition of a chip shot, if the handle gets pulled all of a sudden really quickly, what will tend to happen is that the club will set really aggressively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, again, I'm not worried about where my ball is, I'm not worried about my weight is, it's all absolute nonsense, that stuff. If the ball is aggressively back or the ball is aggressively forwards, then it's a problem. If the weight is aggressively forwards, if the weight is aggressively backwards, again, it has a problem. But the reality is I could put that ball back here, I could have my weight further forwards in my stance. If I understand, my weight into my left foot, if I understand what that's going to create, I could equally make a golf shot and have an angle of attack that is fairly light compared to where those mechanics are. So you can see I've hit 8 degrees down. Now, if I was to make my usual mechanics with a ball position that far back and weight that far forwards, I could create an angle of attack down, and TrackMan probably won't even like that. I could make an angle of attack down excessively. That was down at about 30 or 40 degrees. So when you understand that ball position and where your weight is in your stance, as I say, unless it's a long way out, doesn't make a blind bit of difference. What makes a blind bit of difference is, first of all, how much you feel like your legs are pushing up away from the ground through strike, and secondly, how you feel your levers working in a chip shot. How you feel your levers working in a chip shot, in that when the club sets, you pull and then you still allow the head to swing. So if I keep the pull and keep the acceleration, what starts to happen is that load and pull makes the face point to the right. That's the first thing. The second thing, when I pull the golf club and I load the shaft, that creates an arc that's too narrow. So the gap between my right shoulder and my club head has now lifted the base of the swing up, which when you get the heebie-jeebies, when you get the yips, when you get poor striking with chip shots, you get that sudden acceleration that causes the club head to come up off the floor, which then makes you feel like you've now got to lower your arc to get the golf ball. So what you then have is this ecosystem of pulling the golf club hard, the club loading because you're anxious, then you have to narrow your arc, which makes you feel like your legs are giving way. Then what someone says to you to do is really make your arc wide, don't have any wrist set, and then what happens is your knees still give way, you hit it fat and you can still hit it out the shank. So understanding that the energy between the handle and the head needs managing, and the lighter the golf club is, the harder that is to feel. So when we load the shaft and swing the club, load, swing, and that load point in a chip shot is creating that angle of attack. The swing point is then taking the angle of attack away. You'll still have angle of attack, but it's then lining the face up. So I'm feeling load, swing, load, swing. So I actually feel like I've got a small amount of de-acceleration with the handle and a swing of the head. And that swinging of the head is ultimately going to come down to nerve. Your nerve in allowing that swing moment to happen. And as we get older and we hit worse chip shots, we lose our nerve, don't we? We feel incompetent. We feel anxious. We want everything to happen quickly. But the reality is, of a chip shot, the club head is traveling slowly. And the proportion that the handle is traveling in to the club head feels like it's much closer than it would be than if we're swinging at full speed at 80, 90 miles an hour. The speed of the handle compared to the speed of the head has a far bigger gap in speed. Handle speed around 20 miles an hour, club head speed around 90, 100 miles an hour. Yet down at the ball, when we're playing chip shots, all of a sudden this handle speed and head speed are much closer to each other. And so what that feels like when you're chipping is that the golf club is taking a long time to get to the golf ball. So understand, feeling how the club loads and unloads is crucial. The best way to feel that difference is to make it heavier. So I'm now going to make some chipping motions with the good old broom. Pull, swing. Because the weight has gone up, now all of a sudden that moment where the pull and swing goes on, I have to wait longer. And that waiting longer really makes you suddenly feel, oh crikey, that club is having to catch up. Now, the more I pull, you can now see how much that broom head looks down at the floor and points itself to the right. Whereas when I then get that club to swing, now the face lines back up and I still have that angle of attack. Remember, an angle of attack is 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees. It would be untraceable to the human eye. Yet we talk about shaft lean and angle of attack like it's something truly visible. Oh, there we go, he's got a lovely shaft lean. 5 degrees of shaft lean forwards would be untraceable. So when you think about what's happening with this head, when we're all swinging from the inside, what you're then having to do to line that face up is bow the wrists and all that nonsense, which is why chipping becomes an absolute minefield, because the more you're pushing the handle inside out, the more it's dropping the club head out, back, opening the face up, and you're having to make those motions to line the face back up. Get yourself the broom and get yourself swinging it. Now that we've got this sensation of the broom, and you'll really feel it once you put the broom down, that sensation of loading and swinging as that club is swinging down at the bottom, I want to make sure I've got some vertical energy coming up through my legs so that I feel like when I've loaded the shaft, it's not going to make me feel like I need to go down. As I load the shaft, I'm actually going to feel like I push up, so I make room for it to swing. And as soon as I then start to feel like I push up and make the club swing, it makes me feel like I could make it swing even more. So that one was slightly clean because I had an angle of attack as at 8.4 down. So I'm going to load it, push up, and then make it swing. And so the more I push up, the more it makes me feel like I want to push down with the handle, because it feels like the club is being pushed away from the golf ball. So that would be the feeling: pull, push, swing. Pull, push, swing. And if you get those three elements, you will absolutely control your angle of attack, get your path straight, and get the face looking neutral. I've done a great video on this outside at the lovely Villa Sol Resort on Short Game. Go check that out, because that's a real beauty. So I'm pulling, pushing, swinging. Pull, push, swing. I don't need leg action. I don't need open body. Don't need cutting across it. All of that nonsense. It just makes your job harder. So, pull, push, swing. And you too could start to hit some really nice contact chips. TrackMan didn't get that data. Really nice really nice contact with some chips, making sure that all of a sudden you start hitting a few more chips closer to the flag. We get a few more shots with a bit of spin on them, and we start to really feel. If you're tired of paying too much for your premium leather golf gloves, head over to gxgolfgloves.com. These are gloves trusted by tour players and elite amateurs alike. Use my code GOODCOACHING to receive 10% off your next order. Go try them out. You won't be disappointed. How the purchase, how the time that we have down through strike really starts to come at us. And almost the tone of my voice in this video has been gentle, softly, as opposed to normally I'm bouncing around the room, aren't I? Chipping needs to feel that way. You're trying to allow the club head to feel like it's got some time. We've got to use this weight to allow that club head to